Welcome to Career Choices, the show where you'll learn about different professions so you can make informed decisions on your career choices. I'm your host, Elizabeth Gia. After interviewing over 40 guests, we've come to realize many successful people don't stay on one career path. Instead, they continue to explore different options for their next job and not letting opportunities pass them by. Our guest today, Dr. Gilberto Zelaya, is a perfect example. He studied biology and public health before starting his career in healthcare. He then served as counseling coordinator and outreach manager. Later, he became the National Public Health Director, working on the National Hispanic Health Initiative. Later, he became the Public Engagement Administrator to promote services at the public libraries in Montgomery County. And now, for over the past 15 years, Dr. Zelaya has been the Early Voting and Outreach Coordinator with Montgomery County Board of Elections. He's been recognized for his work across the board in minority affairs, youth activities, and public service. So let's welcome Dr. Gilberto Zelaya. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So you've definitely had some very nice experiences throughout your career. Let's start in the beginning. I see you landed in healthcare as the first job out of college. Can you tell me how you got there?
Yeah, so it was a great opportunity. I used to do a lot of volunteer work in undergrad when I was at GW. And it kind of, it meshed well because originally I was pre-med and I had grandeur becoming a physician. But then after I did a couple of internships, it wasn't my cup of tea, but I still wanted to be in healthcare. So after volunteering with a lot of nonprofit organizations in DC, like Latin American Youth Center, Mary Center, Clínica del Pueblo, I realized that I wanted to empower the community, whether it was in prevention, on HIV/AIDS, diabetes, gang violence. But I know that I wanted to help the community prevent any health concerns or mortality, and so that was my venue, outreach and empowerment.
Wonderful. So then later on, we see that you went to another position that helped the Latin American community, specifically the National Hispanic Health Initiative. Tell me more about that.
So as I was working with the different communities at the local level, I know that there was an opportunity to have more of a broad brush effect nationally. And so I was able to do local campaigns, like I said earlier, on AIDS prevention, teen pregnancy, and I was able to translate that into a national campaign with different organizations. I was able to work with organizations such as World Health, different foundations, NIH, which is in our backyard, and it was a great opportunity to travel the U.S. Nationally to see some of the nuances and some of the the disparities within the Hispanic community, which also affects many other communities because it's kind of a global notion that we're all part of one family. And what affects one community, whether it's the Hispanic community, also has some effects on other neighboring communities in our neighborhoods.
And when you were working in those populations, were you also speaking Spanish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it's one of the things I tell a lot of youth, especially in their career path. It's a benefit having one or two languages under your belt, being bilingual or trilingual, but also having fluency in it. I think it's great if you're able to order a burrito at Chipotle, that's great, but it doesn't translate for a career.
Yes.
And even like today, in my position at the Board of Elections, and even before at the library that we'll discuss early in a moment, there is benefits being bilingual because there are positions that are created by different agencies or companies that specifically look for individuals with fluency, not conversation skills, but fluency.
So those, Spanish classes or French classes or, those classes, you should pay attention.
Pay attention and practice, 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 and leverage that ability to practice another language beyond English because it makes you more marketable. And especially in the DMV area, being marketable is key.
Wonderful. And so, yes, you had mentioned you were an ambassador for public libraries in Montgomery County.
Yes.
That role is the Public Engagement Administrator.
Yes.
So what kinds of services did you provide there?
So that was a great opportunity because one of the great opportunities that I had working for like World Health through the different programs with NIH was I got to travel the world. But then at the same time, to have a family, to establish roots, you have to be in one location more than a week. And so because I was traveling, I got to travel through Africa, through Latin America, because I'm bilingual in Spanish. There was the opportunity to transfer to the public library system. And my job was to look at public library services, looking to expand English classes, computer literacy classes, even literacy in different languages. So they were looking at the libraries as a welcoming place, which it is. It's an outstanding institution. It's one of the busiest institutions in the state of Maryland. The staff, the librarians, the management, I mean, they do outstanding work for Montgomery County overall, and their best practices. And a lot has to do with the fact that they embraced diversity, and they recognize that having a diverse workforce and being able to bring and welcome new immigrants benefits the community as a whole.
That's great. Actually, I myself, living in the county, I did my community service hours at one of the libraries.
Okay, and it's a great opportunity, and I think the library is one of those institutions that are extremely welcoming. It's one of the first locations that new immigrants will go to, whether to look for employment or to develop a resume, or to attend English conversation classes, or to even check out books in Mandarin or Spanish or French, because of course you always miss your home, but they have a vast array of services, and it's like that one-stop shop. It's a welcome center for all Americans living in Montgomery County.
Nice. Yeah. So then I see you naturally transition to another public-facing outreach type role, but in this one it's, you know, I think it's been, what, 15 years as the early voting outreach coordinator with Montgomery County Board of Elections?
Yes.
So
and that was an interesting transition. So what occurred was in 2002, the Department of Justice sent a dissent decree to Montgomery County that they had to implement the entire election process in English and in Spanish, because there's a large Hispanic community. So they were looking for an outreach coordinator to educate and empower our voters about the process. There was an advent of the new touchscreen voting system after the 2000 elections, and also the implementation of Section 203. And so it was a great opportunity to come into a county to develop a program to work with civic-minded individuals, because everyone at the Board of Elections are outstanding. And it's an interesting career because it's something that you don't grow up saying that when I grow up, I'm going to be an election administrator. Like you get a lot of people fall into that role because of opportunities that we're discussing today.
Yes.
And so my goal is to inform and educate all voters, regardless if you're a newly naturalized citizen from any part of the world. The assumption that in order to become a citizen, you have to read and write English is not true. There's some caveats. So for example, if you're 55 years of age and you've been living in the U.S. as a legal resident for 20 years, you could take the naturalization exam in your native language.
Oh,
you don't have to do it in English. And that's a part of educating the electorate.
Yes.
And then also there's going to be a couple of cycles of implementing early voting, which is expanding the franchise to give voters options to exercise their constitutional right to a secret ballot.
Yes.
So the key of teaching them about the new equipment, about early voting, there are options like vote by mail, or even doing a lot of outreach community events with the Chinese American community, the African community, the Hispanic community. They're all part of the franchise, and we want to make sure that they are ready to exercise their constitutional vote.
So you talk about the equipment necessary for these types of voting opportunities. We have a scanner right here. Can you talk about where this comes into play?
So the last election cycle, we implemented a new voting system. The difference between from 2002 to 2014 is that this system has a paper backup. So technically, when a voter checks in, you'll be giving a ballot, a paper ballot. It's a large format. You fill in the ovals, follow the instructions, it's not difficult. And then once you cast your ballot, you would scan it into the scanner. And then once the scanning unit scans your selections, it falls into another secure bin within this scanner unit. And then, you know, we house it, we file it away, and if there's a need for a recount, now we have a paper backup. So every single voter in Montgomery County, whether you vote early voting or on election day, you will check in, and then you will get a paper ballot. you'll exercise your constitutional right, and at the end you will scan it in this exact unit. So that's the new system that we'll be using this time around. We introduced this system in 2016. So for all the voters watching, you will get a sample ballot. It will give you a lot of information on how to vote. It will give an image of your sample ballot, where you vote on election day, and the 11 early voting locations that we have in Montgomery County.
Wonderful. And I see that this process, this voting process, also requires not just yourself in terms of coordinating and arranging the events, but one of your accomplishments that you mentioned earlier was Future Vote.
Yes.
Can you briefly talk about what is Future Vote?
Yes. So we are the only county in the entire United States that incorporates students grades 6 through 12 as election day aides or volunteers. Students can earn student service learning credits, as you mentioned earlier. That's required for graduation. The state mandates 75 total hours. But of course, Montgomery County kids tend to have like hundreds and hundreds of hours, which is great. And so the goal of the program is that these students, as they volunteer on election day, I expect them to serve as election judges before they graduate from high school. Last time in 2016, we had close to 1,100 17-year-olds serve as election judges. Maryland has lowered the age to 16, so we're looking for a lot of volunteers. So if you're watching us today, I would like for you to go to our website, which is 777vote.org. Sign up to serve as an election judge. You must be at least 16 years of age, registered to vote, and live in Maryland.
Thank you. So now it's time to take a break. We'll be talking with Dr. Zelaya when we come back. Stay tuned.
Every book is an adventure waiting to come to life. Visit new worlds. Encounter new friends. And discover the power of reading. Go to read.gov to read A Princess of Mars, the first novel to feature John Carter. A new world awaits. Read.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of the child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 110. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism.
Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Today is Saturday. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw a ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, swap us next Sunday.
60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Welcome back to Career Choices. In today's program, we've invited Dr. Gilberto Zelaya to talk about his career, currently with Montgomery County Board of Elections. So yes, going back years after you graduated, you then went back to school to get your PhD in public health. So how hard was that after not, being in school for a couple of years or many years?
Yeah, I was lucky because I was able to. At first, I was a full-time student, and then I needed to get some experience on my resume because it's very difficult leaving grad school or undergrad without that much of experience. So I did join the workforce, and then after a year or so, 2 years, I went back. And it was a challenge, but I think one of the benefits was I was responsible to myself. I wasn't married. I didn't have children. Even though children are a blessing, and having a family is a blessing in itself, but it is a big responsibility. And so I was able, as my dad told me, focus on your academic endeavors because your professional endeavors is much longer. Because if you think about the time, even if you put from pre-K all the way through grad school, you're going to be working until you're 67 or on. So it's much longer, your career. So I had a great support structure. My family was incredible. They were always there for me. So it was a good transition. Yes, it was difficult. I mean, those long nights, et cetera, and not going out, hanging out with my friends. And
Discipline.
Yeah, there's discipline. There's a lot of discipline.
Self-discipline.
But I knew that I call it like a marathon. Don't take your time and make sure that's, because it is an investment in you. And if down the line you have a family or not, I mean, it's still an investment in your future and those that you will need to support. So I was extremely fortunate and lucky that I had the opportunity to work with great organizations. The institutions that I attended were outstanding, and more importantly, I had a great family structure.
So those support systems then, for those who are watching our program and thinking of perhaps going back and getting that extra degree or a career transition, what kind of advice would you give them?
So the advice I would do is do your homework. Look at the area where you live. Okay, so I know I made a transition from public health to county government, looking at community mobilization and civic and empowerment, because I saw that it was very saturated. There was a lot of public health officers. I also saw the fact that I didn't want to travel as much. And the other thing is I lived in Montgomery County and I worked in DC. And then I was doing the math. I was spending 3 hours a day either on the train or driving. And you multiply that over years and years in a career, I was thinking something has to give. And it is, and I studied public health, so it is a public health issue, this nightmarish traffic that we have in the DMV. And it is unfortunate. And obviously there's other places to be and there's other issues going on. But it was something I need to make a cognizant decision to say, if I want to spend hundreds of hours in an automobile and watch my life slip away.
Quality of life.
It's the quality of life. And I am blessed. I literally live like 10 minutes away from the office. I think
Very
also
nice.
with the career change, working at the Board of Elections, it's very family friendly. They understand the true meaning of human capital, and they know that the workforce, if you have a happy workforce, you have a more productive workforce. So I am blessed that I do work in an agency and have a management team and our director that understands the concept of human capital.
Wonderful.
So that was a good transition 15 years ago coming to Montgomery County, and then that also helped me then, you know, solidify, get married, and have children.
Nice.
So I've been very fortunate and extremely blessed.
Wonderful. So yes, it seems like your message is, it doesn't matter that you have one degree, your degree was in biology and public health, but you still were able to transition to what you do now in the Board of Elections. And so when you are doing those types of career path transitions or changes, for those who are watching, what would you say was most important in the training or in the experience that helped you to navigate these various paths?
So the big thing is do something that you like. A lot of times individuals follow careers that pay a lot of money, but I'd rather be poor and happy than rich and miserable. Because you, like I said, I think if you ultimately do what you like, I think then you will be blessed. And so that transition to elections, like I said, when I was growing up, I had grandeur becoming a physician, and things change. And I've never had no regrets. And I've been able to be ahead of that curve. I saw there were specific needs in the community. So for those individuals watching, if you have a desire, look, there's a lot of great institutions. Montgomery College is an awesome institution to start. There's the universities at Shady Grove. There's a lot of local campuses. There's online. There's options in this area. I think we're blessed that we have such an array of academic options, great internships, awesome institutions. And I always tell students, it's not necessarily what you know, it's also who you know.
That's right, networking.
Networking is key. And that's one thing I remember my mom taught me, like, network. Say good morning, you know, meet people, you know, understand where they're coming from, what are their nuances and little quirks. But I think the network is critical. And on top of that, buttress it with your degree and your knowledge and your skill sets. And learn how to mold yourself with the environment in which you live. So do the research, and there's a lot of great, IT's a great field, computers, everything has a computer or a computer chip in it, that's another great field. But I think ultimately, do something that you love, and it's something that you could see doing for many, many years.
So that's very key, it seems, to sustaining yourself throughout your career. What about in terms of your personality traits? What are some traits? I would imagine being, you know, not quick to quit.
Yeah, yeah.
A persevering type of personality.
Being persistent. Yeah, being persistent. Being honest with yourself. Being understanding and listening.
Okay.
I know all my friends and work colleagues, they see me as someone who like to meet individuals halfway. Do not assume that you know everything. And also when you need help, don't be ashamed to ask for it.
That's good.
I think that's key, because a lot of times in this area, there's a lot of big egos. And that's fine. Have your ego. But if I need assistance, I'll be the first one to ask for help.
That's good.
So I think that's key. But I think looking at the workforce, learn a language skill that makes you extremely marketable.
That's a good experience.
Yeah, it's a great experience. And also do something that you like and that you're passionate about.
Very good. And in your career then, some things, I mean, a lot of these highlights are the really successful parts. I'm sure there's also parts that are things you may not desire to experience, but they come with the career and the job. So anything, some of these challenges, can you share with our audience?
So I think, I think with career, one of the challenges I think is traffic.
Yes.
It's nightmarish. Number two, taking the metro into DC, if you really think about it, you have an entry-level job, it's expensive.
Yes.
You're spending between $12 to $14 a day. And so I remember having ramen noodle soups at my desk because I had my colleagues that were older and more established. Let's go have lunch. I'm like, oh, that's $25. Like, I need to get back home. Otherwise, I'm going to be walking from DuPont Circle and so back to Montgomery County. So, but at the same time, I think you have to fail. You only will learn when you fail. And yeah, trust me, I've made errors in my career, and I've learned to persevere. And it's normal. Failing is part of learning.
Yes.
And also, I think internalizing those opportunities to learn from your failures will make you stronger. It's like a child. When you grab a hot pot, you technically won't grab it with the other hand. You just won't grab it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of common sense. But yes, you will have failures. You need to have failures because that's how you learn. That's part of learning. That's part of your career.
So the trial and error part of the career is natural and almost required.
Yes, it's natural progression. You know, a lot of times individuals will jump into a job because they pay well. But really look at the global impact that will have in your health, your family. And I think overall, I think the positions, I've always been able to been presented either option A or option B. And I think like a carpenter, measure twice, cut once.
Okay.
I think if you do that, I think you will be successful. And in my career, I think I've been extremely blessed to be presented a lot of opportunities to grow, and I've been blessed that I've been able to make the right choice.
And that's critical.
Yeah, that's critical. And I think also another tip is surrounding yourself with good individuals that are there for your well-being, but also individuals that could help you, that could buttress you, not take advantage of you. I think if you surround yourself with good individuals, a good team, and you have a well-rounded resume, you have a well-rounded academic resume, and also involve yourself in the community, volunteer. Volunteer is key. Most of my networks I got was volunteering. Volunteering activities. And then it grows.
So then in these experiences and volunteers, situations, anything that stands out as one of your most proud moments? You
know, one of my proud moments professionally was developing Future Vote. I think that was great because bringing in youth into our process enabled me the opportunity to strengthen our democracy. You know, I think the other great achievement I think is having a family and my children. I think that's also one of my greatest achievements, and I think that's been a blessing in having a great family.
Wonderful. Well, I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that always. So yes. I will say one more time, I'm really pleased. Thank you for sharing this scanner.
My pleasure.
The scanner that every voter will be able to now use or have been using.
Exactly, and it's important that voters, they'll get the sample ballot in the mail. If they have any questions, they could call our office. And if there's any community advocates or leaders, or even if it's a homeowner association or a church group that they would like for us to do a demonstration, we will gladly send our team. We'll do voter registration, we'll bring the equipment, and we'll gladly demo, because at the end of the day, I work for you. So let me know where you would like for my team to meet you halfway, and we gladly will do a demonstration on the equipment.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We've come to the end of our program today. We thank him and we thank you for joining us. So if you have any feedback or comments, or if you would like to share your experience, please email us at qip.career.choices@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time on Career Choices.